Once again, we are back with a project review. This is one of my favorite ones. It's the Bobcat Exhibit at Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my, you have to always say that. I always was having to resist the urge to say that every time I was doing videos on this project, which was the coolest one in so many ways. It is a liner job, faux rock job, mixed all together. And I really like how this thing came out. It was built at Lions, Tigers, and Bears, which is in Alpine, California. And if you are ever in the neighborhood, you should get up there. The whole time we were working there, we were hearing lions roaring and Bengal tigers strolling along the fence. And some pretty good times. We've done a number of projects there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. We made an awesome enclosure for a jaguar named Eddie, and he was the coolest dude. He was so awesome. And that one we can show in another project review, but this is project review number 6, and this is the Bobcat Exhibit at Lions and Tigers and Bears. So let us begin the process. This is how the job looked inside the enclosure. This was a $50,000, as I understood it, enclosure built by a company that makes these sort of things, with a nice big huge open space inside here with natural rocks. We have these wonderful old, look at the lichen on these stones over here, down here on the left side here. That's actually, this is in the winter or spring, with the rains having come and greened up everything. It's been raining and stuff. When I got up there, everything's wet. So this is sort of how things started, how it looked at the beginning. And so we will click through another one. Now I move to the right. I'm looking to the north right now. Back here is a bear exhibit. This has now been all fleshed out with a pond. Huge, big, giant telephone poles and branches to climb on back over here, past outside this enclosure all the way into the back. And it's just, everything's cool. I say cool too much. So we're trying to figure out what to do here, and at the beginning it was I said either 2 or 3 ponds would be this project. That was how I was talking to the client about it. And this is Bobby Brink and her husband Mark, who are the owners of this facility. Absolutely amazing, wonderful people. And so there's my old white van before it finally died after 250,000 miles. It pooped out. And now we're using Mom's minivan, and she is not happy, but what do? You got to keep going to work. So, and we are continuing to rock on here and there. This rock right here will stay there. These will be moved around a little bit here and there, and we will see as we progress further. Check this out. Okay, this is the rock you can see right here down at the bottom. That is that rock right there, okay? And the pond's going to be kind of going over in this area. And I wanted to make this I wanted to make a boulder and I'm making this up. There's no pictures. I didn't draw anything. I just made it up on site as we began to build this thing. This is that same rock, and you can see what we've done. We've epoxied steel into this granite boulder, and it's just hammer drilled in there with epoxy, and then we bend it around and up. I wanted to make sort of a thing that the animals could hang out over the pond. So the pond's going to be down underneath here. Now check this out. I talked to you guys about this in other videos. When you're doing something, a fake rock, and it's upside down, you can leave some space open enough to where you can get in here and reach in here with your hand, and you put pegboard on the outside. You have a space between the steel and the pegboard. And again, tie wires just go through the holes. You see that right here in that little area, and right here. So those are holding the board there, and it's giving us some nice space between the steel and the outside area so that the steel is fully encased. We want that steel encased. Very importante. So you can pre-pour all the upside down stuff. Trying to throw cement underneath there would be like, oh my gosh, what a pain in the butt. So as often as possible, whenever there's a pitch and the angle of repose is leaning out, so you can get your pegboard underneath here, and just it's easy to stack cement if it's not too steep of a pitch, if I can do the reverse thing. So check that out. That's all you do is pegboard that in there, and then as you get that all poured, and you'll see the subsequent pictures, then you can start putting burlap in here, and that's what we're going to do. And back here we've started the footing for that. Is going to be the spring rock, where all the waterfall is going to be bubbling out of a rock. Here's that same extension that we're adding to a real boulder. What's interesting, it'll look like it would want to tip over, but obviously this is not solid and it's not heavy relative to this, so it's not going to tip over at all. We jumped up on top of this and stood on it, and it did not move the boulder at all. So isn't that something? So there you go. You see that distance right there, how much room we have. So the steel is really encased excellently. I won't say bigly, because that's a term that's too triggering for some people. So here we have the footing for the spring rock that is going to be here. Again, we epoxied right into the boulder over here, so you can do that. It is, and you know, this rock's been sitting here for a while and it's not going anywhere too much, but nice footing that goes down about 6 to 8 inches, 5 inches or so wide, and the rebar just has a little L bend, and we do that. Push the wrong button. We do that with a little long bender, rebar bender bar, which is right there in the back. See if you guys can see that. You've seen those kind of things. Don't wig out on the mouse. So there's the bender bar, cutter bar, and that allows you to put nice right angle elbow bends in rebar. Very, very awesome. Very cool tool. Jump forward in time. Look at that. So this was all poured prior to the burlap going in there. Isn't that awesome possum? And you can see, we'll zoom in here a little bit, we use little pieces of rock and stone as a separator, or adobe is what the cement things. You can get little square pieces of cement with some wires in them to use as separators. So we use those. All these spaces will be patched up and filled in with a mortar mix to make that really nice and solid. Burlap on the inside, chicken wire on the outside. You can see that over here. You see, get that gap. It's nice. And this is all leaning in. This area right here, you'll notice on the previous pictures, as you recall, it was tipping back. So we just put the pegboard underneath it and poured it from the inside of the rock itself before all this burlap and all the rebar was there, making it easy to get in there with a handful at a time and just vibrate and pack it on up. Very, very cool. So there we have that whole rock has been done with the pegboard. Again, this will be hand applied and covered up, worked its way in, and that's the little stepping thing to get up. We've started over here. Oh, this is so cool. I love this job. So many different aspects to it that are amazing. So bender boards around here they use for doing concrete work. You can sometimes use those for pathways through properties and yards where you have dirt on the back and maybe grass on the other side, or you're going to pour a sidewalk. You can do that. So we'll zoom in from this perspective. There's that real rock, and we're doing just burlap here. Again, if it's leaning back a little bit, all this is easily applied, hand applied. We got our wheelbarrow, our mixer in the background over there. Concrete, I buy 60-pound bags because the 90-pound bags are too heavy for me. I don't like it. And so this is all going to be pre-poured before a liner. This whole area will be a rubber liner with concrete over it. I think we used a shotcrete pump. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was shotcrete. Concrete mixed on the mixer, wheeled on over here, and we just cover up our rocks. Make them pretty, baby. Yeah, make them pretty. All right. There we are, moving along, hand applying our concrete mixes, again, to the burlap and chicken wire structures. Just looking at this for some of the design guidance. This is a real rock. God made the rock. Well, just follow some of these angles. Mimic some of those angles and that harsh, angular, broken, but weathered kind of a texture of the rock and the shape. Up here we've got our drain pipe, which is the little one, and that's the feed pipe that's going to be giving water to this whole feature. That pipe is right there, and that's going all the way back over to the pumps, which we will get to. Here you see the pre-poured stuff. There's the bender boards, and we use a laser level to get those right here. That's the laser level in the back right there, and it spins around and runs sends a laser out, and there's a little stick, which any of you guys seen pool builders, and it just beeps when you hold the stick, and that gives you the exact elevation all the way around to wherever you want, which will be consistent anywhere in the site. There's the drain pipe for the water body of here, the pond. I always like to have those things able to be drained And that is a good thing. All right, so awesome. We're doing both faux rock and a liner, which will be covered. The bender boards are right there, and these are just hand poured. And this is going to be a pond over here, but I still wasn't 100% sure as I was building this, figuring this out as we went along. All right, so we're jumping forward. Here's that little berm curb. That's basically to contain the whole pond. Pond does not need to be deep, okay, guys? It doesn't have to be deep. It's got a drain in it with some big 3-inch drain pipes, 3-inch, I think, 3 or 4-inch, and so the idea would be to pop those drain valves. They got a gate valve, ball valve, and that would just allow all the ponds to drain when they need to clean them out. There's no real filtration per se. And we do 2 bender boards up to get the height we wanted. There's the chicken wire, and we're continuing to move through the process. Over here are the drains that are right there. That one's for this pond. There's one over here. And those are all going to be able to go to there's 2 drain pipes, and you undo one and then the other one. And all these 3 ponds, which we'll see in a sec, will be emptied out. Oh, I'm all the way off the page. Oh no. Okay, so look at this. Oh, it's so cool. So that's our feed line. That's a drain pipe. Using the laser level to figure out our elevations, where water's got to go. Over here is going to be the skimmer way in the back. That's our little skimmer, and that's just to try to have some functionality to this project in terms of keeping it clean. Water changeouts were one of the main strategies, and remember, these are only 3 or 4 or 5 inches deep over here, and this one's deeper, just to give us the elevations and have a deeper pond for the cats to hang out in, the bobcats. There we have our finished mortar mix, patching, going over all the structural concrete. We do concrete and then mortar mix after that. And you can see we have some little boards we just hammer in the ground, little stakes. Pegboard, again, when it's leaning out, you can stack up concrete for miles and miles if that angle isn't too steep, and it'll just stay right where it is. You just don't get the mud too wet. Don't get the mud too wet. So this is that extension we added to it. It's all going to look like a rock. Same thing over here. We're just taking a little bit of rebar. We ran around the perimeter. I think I did put like 1 piece, at least 1 or 2 pieces, just to hold it together, keep it from cracking. But again, we're shotcreting over this whole thing on our rubber liner. So the rubber liner, as long as it's above the edge of the level of the water line, you're good to go. You're okay. It can crack everywhere, and it doesn't matter. The fog coats are the release powder, go on top of the fog coats. So I'm confusing you. Sorry. There's fog coats that are cementitious products, that are stucco product. And they have color in them. They don't fade away. They have to actually go away to lose the color. So you add, generally we have 3 different colors plus the color of the mortar or the concrete, so that's gray. So we tend to have 4 at least colors that are cementitious or cementish. So those colors are integrated and integral into the color of our rocks, and they won't fade away. It's a softer material, the fog coats are. So they aren't as, PSI is not as strong, but over the decades and years doing this, it seems to hold up really, really well. And as the paint fades away, in time, as all paint does, just like house paint, the fog coat colors can come through, keeping it vibrant and alive and not looking just plain old gray. These are brick form stamps in the bucket, stamp powder release agents, release powders, and the colors are great. You can get all these great cream colors, and these are just pieces of rubber stamping materials that I got over the years and years ago. And this one used to be a big one. It's called skins. They're not the really thick ones you use to put in heavy texture. Very thin and floppy, and so we use those just to give ourselves a little bit of texture. When you have a real rock right next to it, that the stamping can really match that very nicely. So I'll zoom in on that so you can see it's a release powder, and these are these old skins. I think, yeah, these used to be 1 piece. They split in half, but stamping is the easiest thing in the world. It's like so much a no-brainer. Just don't let the cement or the mortar get too hard. You can see it imprints a little bit here, and the beauty of rocks are that they're irregular and varied and mottled, and so they can have all kinds of colors and stuff in there. and textures and weirdness, and you know, it's just all of it can be all over the place, and it's just fine. We did a little section here after we did this section, or this looks great. So that hasn't been done yet. So we are hand applying our mortar mix on there, and then it's troweling it on, and sometimes we spray it too, and then we can go ahead and put the fog coats first, release powders and stamps second, if that's the way we're going to do the particular project. This is the fountain or spring pond we were talking about. Now we're going to do a deep dive on this project because it got so much cool stuff. This side, the waterfall is going to go this way, and then it's going to come down the other side. And I've got a video at the very end. We'll show you how it came out. Really, really neat. If we zoom in on this, we can see real rock over here, faux rock, and already they're starting to tie in and look pretty close together. And that has not been troweled or brushed or textured yet. A lot of the color powders off when you do that, but a lot is retained as well. That's stamped. You can see some of it sticks to the stamp a little bit. So what? This side has been brushed, and you can see we've added the other pond perimeter over on this side. Again, there's my laser level that tells us exactly how high this needs to be to make sure the pond will fill up with water, not go where we don't want it to go. And we had 2 ponds, and I was deciding on how to do it, and so this one was to be the highest to pour into this one to then drain into the bottom one. And as you'll see, we did a little modification on that. Zooming in on the texture, that's my good old Mr. Dave cracking strategy, and it's basically just looking at the real rocks in this environment of Southern California, San Diego, and kind of mimicking that. There's the drain pipe. I try to make the waterfall fall right where that's going to go, so it doesn't look like the rock is pissing out the side of it. Can I say that? That's kind of vulgar. Now look at that. So we got this is all just a curb. There's rebar in it, but not a whole lot. And this whole thing, these 2 ponds are going to have liner put in, and there'd be a BTL liner. It's a polypropylene, if I remember right, and that's lighter than the EPDM, which is 45 mil thick. Generally, they recommend. And this is just going to be. I don't think I used any underlayment either, because the dirt here was very chill and free of any kind of rocks and things that would causing us problems or have something break. Down here is the lower pond, so this is going to go from these 2 ponds to this pond here, and you'll see it from another angle as we move through this. We'll zoom in on it because it looks better when you're looking closer. And all this stuff is pre-mixed all by hand with that little mixer and a wheelbarrow, and we just take our time doing it in segments and chunks. And get enough people working, you can go pretty fast. Drain right there, drain right here, and so we want to be able to just flip that valve, and all the water comes out of these little pond areas. Again, these are very shallow, not very deep. It's okay if they crack. It's not a big deal. Drains in the landscape all around it, and with all the heavy rain we've recently had, that's a good thing. These rocks and boulders are already here. We poured this perimeter here, drain also, and conduit for lighting to the various areas. Always good to throw in your conduit and sprinkler lines early on. This whole area in the back will be getting bulldozed or bobcatted around. I'm going to they had a backhoe. Is it backhoe? I think it was a excavator, and I moved a lot of these rocks to create a little raised area to make more sense that there'd be a pond here, a depression with a higher ground here, and they put in some wonderful trees. And I was trying to find, these rocks are so cool, these rocks down here. I love that mottled and natural look of the real deal. So I was trying to find a video of the finished thing. It's on my YouTube channel, and you just look up the Bobcat Lions and Tigers, or Bobcat Exhibit, and you can see that with all this grass. They put grass all the way around. Just so cool, man. I started out originally with having a pipe, a 4-inch ABS black pipe that was going to drain these ponds. It wasn't big enough, and I kind of had the thought that it wouldn't be. So I sort of knew which direction I was going to head, and we'd ended up putting in a stream in here towards the end of the build, and you'll see how that came out. Very, very cool. All these boulders and rocks were just laid up here. They try to make a place for the animals to climb around on. And so you can kind of see we're creating those spaces where the pond can go. Now we texture coated this guy and brushed it. I'll zoom in on it. When you brush them, some of that color comes off, but a lot of it stays. It's wet, so it's much darker than it would be. These areas over here are dried out, and you can see they're a little bit lighter. So this is a faux rock section. It's an extension on a real boulder, and I call it the Lion King rock, so the little bobcats get to come up here and sit and be the kings of their environment, you know what I mean? So there's the other side. Real rock here, faux rock coming along here, and that's going to dry out, but even as it's moist or wet still, that's a nice color match too, pretty good. See that? So that's so cool. And the carving, and that's the fun part of faux rock, is putting the carving, the cracks in and stuff. And you just, when you're doing right next to the real thing, you can kind of just look at it as a guide. So we sort of, follow what God makes with rocks and stuff. Notice we don't have little cracks everywhere. Some of the guys out there, they just have to keep going, and sometimes less is more, as people will tell you, and good creative pieces that are out there. Less is more. Let's move my head over here just to be different. Okay, this is a video sort of updating where we were just at. Very, very interesting. You're able to see the look that we have as we see in 3 dimensions as things move. That's a close-up of the texture, which is pretty cool. All this is not paint. This is all, cementitious, I can't even talk, cementitious material that does firm up and get hard, and it doesn't fade away. But they got earthen tones. This is still a little bit wet, I think, and it would dry out. We have our drains that are there. This one's more dry. You see the lighter color, very cool. And so we will click down the road. All right, look at this. Now we're looking at our liner. BTL liners are thinner. This one was anyway. Like I said, it's a polypropylene, if memory serves, which is not necessarily always the case. Divider pour, pre-pour here. That was on top of the liner. So here's a zooming in part on that liner. Again, we're going to pull this out, and then we're going to shotcrete or gunite the whole thing all the way around and just roll it over the edge, and you'll see how that comes out. This is looking to the left, and there's that. That's a return line that also allows for water to be pumped into the pond and then cuts down on the water that's going to the spring line. I always try to put three-way valves into things so you can actually regulate water and make sure your water moves where you want it to move, both for sound and just functionality, so it's more efficient. So this is just laid everywhere. That's all going to be turned into cement, and we will bounce forward. All right, looking at it from this side, this is the overall look of this whole area. We have 3 ponds, essentially, 1, 2, 3. The one deeper in the back, boom, now we jump forward and we have concreted it. And now we're moving along also, and I'll move my head up here. And I think my head's too big. I'll make it smaller. Here's the pond. Spring pond's going to be happening right here. This is a real rock, and we feather on up the texture of the concrete and shotcrete. This whole thing is just simply shotcreted concrete, and then it rolled up over all those curbs, those berms, all the way around. We'll zoom in here because you can see more. That's a pile of concrete just left there to make a little island. Drain over there. All these are getting their texture coat processed just like we've been doing. Fog coats that we use. Put a few cracks in there as you're going along. There's a little skin. Fog coats on top of concrete. We do the concrete first, and then come back with fog coats and the release powders with stamping, as I mentioned before. Let's bounce ahead here. All right, there's the release powders. Those are fog coats. Usually have 3 different colors. Release powders have a lid. Release powder over here. This is the lower pond. We have a lot of blue-gray, granite, salt, pepper. So good old gray or black release powder is great. And again, it's integral color, and so that's not going to fade or lace, not without the material having to be degraded and worn away. the rubber liner just rolled over all these rocks and boulders here. And once we shotcreted them and, you know, shaped them out, I try to push in between the stones all the way to the liner if needed, so they have places to move and shift. If it seems like this rock right here, we didn't need to have a complete release all the way down, but we do start a little bit of a crack for just the normal process of getting us a natural look. You want division, negative spaces, so they look more real. Real rocks have separation, so we're trying to, you know, make that be proper and correct. There's my drain pipe right over there, which did not adequately remove the water, so it was overwhelming it. So I had to cut this whole thing out, move that boulder around, and create a stream bed, which we'll shortly see that goes between these two. Are you hanging in there with me, Dave, on a long, deep dive deep dive into the Bobcat exhibit? I used acid stains for the bottoms of the ponds. Green is a natural color in ponds. They get green. You can't help it. Nature gives us green, so that's the way it goes. Used the black, gray powder releases and paint to give color that matches the real rocks all around. The cream color, good. You don't want the same color on every single rock. You just don't want to do it. They've planted some trees, grape tree and non-fruiting grape tree and some other stuff, a little apple. And like I said, the full video of this thing after it's been in the ground a year is just awesome. So we have our Lion King jump off the rock here. This is real. This is all fake. And it's not tipping over at all. And I just love how this thing's turning out. It was very, very cool. So you can see the perimeter here. I will zoom in on this. This is just, if it's quality, well, the picture is not all that good, but this is all just the concrete blown on there, shaped a little bit, and then rinsed off with a hose. I rinsed it off with a hose on the outer edge, and that revealed the aggregate, and it gave it, again, a more natural kind of look, and that's what we like. This looks cool. Got a little acid stain up on here with that green. I also use green paint. And we are getting it done. All right. Now we got some water in it. Okay, beauteous. And it looks green. Imagine that. So that is the 3 ponds. This is coming over here. This has got the drain pipe right there, which was the original plan. And we will see that that didn't do it. That wasn't enough movement of water. Rock coming over, not just a perfect curb. We have different kinds of chopping away. You can see on this picture more of the revealed aggregate in the concrete. Very, very cool. This all got backfilled, so there was a little higher amount of dirt, so it's not looking undercut. And this, again, get different shapes going on. You know, don't just make it all the same. It's very common to get sort of stuck on the groove of let's just do the same thing. Another cool plant, and this thing came out so cool. I'll see if I can find the video of it running and put it in the notes on this video. All right, we have come to the end here. This is how it came out. I'll see if, yeah, I think you guys can hear the water, and there you go. Pretty darn cool. All right, that little area there, we painted it, but that was the stream that we added to finish this thing up because that little pipe wasn't enough. I love the sparkle of it. It's so cool. Spring pond doing its thing. Boulders all around. Oh man, what a job this was. One of my favorites ever. All right, and there's the little houses that look like a frontier town. Okay, guys, that was a long haul. I love it. This is one of my favorite ones. I'll put the link to the video that has the whole thing all flushed out in green. Absolutely wonderful, amazing, super splendiferous. And so, all right, project review number 6, the Bobcat exhibit, the Pond Bobcat exhibit. Lions, tigers, and bears. You got to get up there and see them. All right, guys, remember to be thankful and forgiving. Grateful, and you live your life that way, you're going to be a happier person, and the people around you will likely be happier too. The alternative is no good because I tried it, and as grumpy does, grumpy do, and it rubs off on people, whether you're happy or sad. You're rubbing it off on others. Try to stick on the happy side and grateful side. And remember, Jesus is coming back soon, so have him come into your heart, clean you up. You cannot be in the presence of perfection if you're not perfect, and you ain't. Jesus takes care of that, but you got to ask him in. Ask him into your heart, and he will forgive you of your mistakes and your flaws and your imperfections. But you have to do it, and it's an act of your will. So that's what freedom is about. You don't have to if you don't want to. But I would recommend it. Life is easier. Even when it's hard, it's easier when you got Jesus in your heart. You got God on your side, as it were. And he's waiting to help you out, and he's right there with you. So there's that story. If you want to help me with my little channel, it would be awesome. Just sign up for Rockin' On membership at davehenderson.podia.com. And just look for Rockin' On memberships. $10 a month helps keep me going. And it's really great to get that support. And my little pointer is right in my face. So, all right, Mr. Dave here, having a good time going into the past. The project review number 6. Hope you have a great day. God bless you. And let me know how many questions you have. And we can definitely see if we can put our heads together and make life better and make our projects better. All right? All right. We'll see you next time. Somewhere in the future, God willing. Have an awesome day, no matter what. Bye.